Shwmai a croeso cynnes, and welcome to the What's Your Story podcast. I'm James Owen, a Welsh filmmaker and storyteller, and I'm passionate about sharing stories. This podcast is all about business owners sharing their journey, and we'll be speaking with directors, entrepreneurs and creatives from all across Wales to learn from their experiences. We believe everyone has a story to tell. What's your story? Shwmai a croeso nôl, welcome to What's Your Story, and I'm very pleased to welcome a good friend on the podcast today. This person is a mother, she's a business owner, she's a payroll professional, and is a member of the Chartered Institute of Payroll Professionals. My goodness, that was a mouthful. All the way from Ammanford. I'd like to welcome Kay Augustus to the podcast. Kay, thank you for coming down.
Thank you very much for having me. That was a lovely introduction.
Well, thank you. I think that's one of the best I've done in a few episodes. Because there's a lot to remember. Like, for those of you watching, I've got no notes. I don't, it's just good to, it's good to share a bit of an insight into the people who come on the podcast. And I probably don't do that enough. I just get excited to get stuck into the teeth, get your meat into the conversation.
We can see your passion.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And I love how you've got the purple hair. Was it pink?
Pink.
It's pink.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's get it right. Yeah.
All right,
pink.
okay, it's pink. I love it because that is, I'm already seeing the edit now, gonna vibrantly colour the frame in shot. But for those who are listening and watching, can you just share a little bit about your business? Can you say in a few words, what is Augustus Payroll?
Okay, so people generally hate payroll. They love it or they hate it. It's absolute marmite. But payroll is, we basically keep employees paid. We keep the government funded because we're the biggest source of government funding.
Really?
It's the biggest source of revenue into the government is PAYE and taxes. So, I mean, that's paid in weekly, monthly, So, I mean, that's, we're the biggest contributor to that, We contribute towards the likes of benefits and stuff. So payroll is a massive role, really, but it's not heavily appreciated in a lot of places and a lot of departments, and this is why I've sort of try and be a little bit more verbal about what we do, so people are a little bit more aware. It's not just pushing a button.
And yeah, you're educating me because I've gotten to know over the last few months, just knowing more about your business and learning what a payroll person does. Because I'm sure lots of the people who listen to our podcast are most probably business owners, directors, solopreneurs, but maybe some of them watching are employed. So I think to an employed person, maybe they say payroll a bit differently to a business owner, because in my experience running my business, my accountant does my payroll. I've never thought of a need to engage with a payroll service because they do very different roles. An accountant looks after your books in a sense of filing them and making you compliant and being creative and helping you save a bit of money. And the payroll person, like yourself, is doing that sole job of paying the staff, which is very interesting. I'm sure we can break all that down and why you might need a payroll professional in your business. But you've been running this business now 4 years.
4 years the business has been registered for. I've officially been in the business and running it full time for the last 3 years though. So it's been a roller coaster. But I don't think any business is a straight line anyway, No,
mine isn't.
No.
Isn't ever. Things like that happen today. There's the good and the bad. The mountains and the valleys.
Yeah.
At the moment you're on a mountain, I feel, because you've done exceptionally well, Kay.
Yeah, I think, there's that mountain, you do get those dips in it, but as long as you keep on going up, then I think you're definitely on onto something good there.
Onto something good. And starting the business, you were very much in a valley. You have an experience in the sort of accounting space. You're not a qualified accountant, disclaimer, but you started off working in a job in the accounts department.
Yeah, so I've done several roles. I mean, I have done my AAT, which is more of a bookkeeping. So there are differences because we've got bookkeeping, we've got accounts, we've got tax, we've got payroll. Bookkeeping is transactional, tax is your tax, payroll is your payroll, your PAYE, and construction industry scheme, and then accounts then are looking at the bigger picture and stuff. So just to break it down a little bit, but we can't remember where the
So your first job,
Yeah,
you
the first job.
You put your hand up
Yeah.
to start working in accounts, didn't you?
Yeah,
you
so-
working in a factory?
It was a factory. That was my first job. Yeah. So, funny story though. Before I went into the factory, my father actually turned to me, and I'd just finished school, and he turned around to me and he said, "I want you to, go out and get a job, and if you get a job within a week, I'll buy you a car." So, all right, okay, Dad, I'm on to this bet. And I did. I found a job as an admin assistant in a local factory in Eslovera called Springdew, as an admin assistant. And that's where I kind of got to dabble in a bit of payroll, and I enjoyed that. I did a couple of night classes and things on it then, yeah.
Is that company still going? Springdew?
Still going, yeah.
Wow.
I see Don and Greta, the owners, and I was on holiday not so long ago, and their daughter Rachel. We were literally playing mini golf, and me and my kids and my husband, and I was looking over at this girl. She was looking back up at me, and we were like, "Do we know each other?" And yeah, it turned out it was Rachel, their daughter. So yeah, small world, isn't it?
Small world. Do you do their payroll?
I don't do their payroll, no, but they've got in-house, which is why I was employed with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe we can talk about the differences and
Yeah.
it's good you've broken that down in terms of, because even there earlier you said about bookkeeping and tax and payroll and accounts, because there are different functions to accounting as your bookkeeping, which most business owners can do themselves,
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
And there's the accounts. So it's good to break all those things down, because I'm sure to do what you do and to do it well for businesses, you need to have an understanding of all of those areas, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, you can do absolutely any of these things yourself. And this is where software kind of catches people out. They say to you, like, payroll done, payroll sorted, accounts done, filed. But is it right is always the question. Is it compliant? I've literally been into some people's business who are using the likes of certain softwares, and they have had problems because they've had a letter from HMRC then to turn around and say, why are you? Why haven't you paid this bill? All of a sudden you've got £8,000 in tax due. Well, where has this all of a sudden come from? And they're questioning it, and it's because the software has allowed them to do things that they shouldn't have been able to do. So the software is a tool. It's only as good as the information that you're putting into it. So, like you say, anybody can do bookkeeping, anybody can do payroll, but are they doing it right? Is always the question.
That's interesting. So let's talk about the Valley. And prior to you starting the business, well, because you worked in this factory as somebody who was doing payroll.
Yeah.
Give me a whistle-stop tour of your background before setting up the business.
Yeah. So in school, I'll start off at the very beginning, because this is why I didn't go on to further education. So in school, I was heavily dyslexic, asthmatic, chronic, in and out of hospital as a child, and falling further and further back in school because of the dyslexia. So this is why my father felt that he needed to give me a push to go and get a job, because I wasn't going into further education. I wasn't carrying on down that path. So I'd exhausted myself. I'd passed my GCSEs, but I'd exhausted myself in school and I didn't want to go back to school. So that's where the jobs came in, and I found something I was good at, so I carried on with payroll. I've worked for many different companies in industry, running their payroll, doing light bookkeeping duties because of my AAT background as well. But I really, really enjoy running payrolls. But the business kind of was born because of an urgent need. I was working in accountancy practices, running their payroll departments for them and things, and it was really enjoyable. But you still always want to do things yourself, I started the business, I had it running in the background. So it was the 9th of February 2022 when I registered the business. I was still employed at the time. And I decided, right, okay, I think I'm going to leave this role now and go and start my own business up. Handed in my notice, didn't have anything to sort of, to go to or anything. It was a little bit nerve-wracking. And as you do, you end up finding a client and thinking, I'm going to go and work with them instead. You get cold feet. So the business is sort of like still there, but it wasn't running, which is why I say it's 3 years rather than the 4 that it's registered for. But the need for the business came along when my daughter suffered her really bad, severe mental health episode. So it was August 2023, the 28th. I remember it very, very well. And she decided she didn't want to be here anymore. She didn't want to live. She took a huge overdose and was severely ill in hospital. After a bout of self-harming and things that we knew had gone on, that was during COVID while she wasn't able to do her GCSEs and things. We knew it was, we were at rock bottom basically as a family. As a parent, your only thing to do is keep your child alive, and we were failing at that really. So it was very heavy for us. And you always look at yourself, and you always try and reflect on yourself. I'm pleased to say now she's a heck of a lot better. But this is what I mean: is the business has gone through dips and and troughs and mountains. Mountains, I say as well, because they have been very big highs and and very low lows. But I decided rather than, I had to safeguard my daughter. Rather than working with a client, I'm going to go and I'm going to quit my job. And I'm just going to see no work is more important than my family and my children. So I quit my job and I safeguarded Keris, got her any support she needed, which is very difficult. The NHS is really, overworked. People don't fully understand mental health, I don't think, because everybody's different, everybody's mental health is different. So it was very hard to sort of get her support and the recognition she sort of needed. And being 17 at the time as well, she wasn't classed as an adult. So she was under our CAMS systems and stuff anyway.
Okay.
And, they kind of very much focused on we're all going to be in a group together and we're all going to talk as a group. But we can't talk specifically because it might trigger somebody else. Now, she was an open book at this time. Why aren't we asking her the questions? Why have we, that wedge is in the door now to have that conversation with her? Why are we now taking that wedge away and closing that door? But we did have good help with the likes of local charity called the Jack Lewis Foundation, and they supported her, provided mental health support, conversations with her just to tell her her opinions were valid, her feelings were valid. And like I say, she's had a very rocky up and down. That wasn't her only attempt. There have been others, but I'm very proud of her now because she has done what a lot of us as adults have never done, is looked at ourselves and thought, right, what do I need to get me through this? And last year she decided what I need to get me through this is my dog. I have never, so as you know, we've got 3 Dachshunds. As you know, they are the mascots of the business, but one of them is actually a support animal now for my daughter and a registered provider of to support her. And she goes to university with her. And like I say, I'm very proud of it because as a 19-year-old, she worked out what she needed to support her, and she's sorted it. And she did all the training herself and stuff, and like I say, I've got now one of my dogs, my grand dog, is in university and going to graduate in probably 2 years' time.
Fantastic! What a great story to hear that turnaround from her, and gosh, you've experienced quite a lot as a parent, and your husband as well, to be in that position.
Yeah.
And what's probably terrifying is quitting your job in that moment to care for her, because you're right, that's what parents do, is they'll do anything to look after the children. But there's probably worries of money and what am I going to do, all of those things in the background.
It was literally like, I'm going to go and stack some shelves in Tesco's if I have to. While she's in bed, I'll go out and work. If that's what it needs to be, that's what it needs to be. We'll always do what we need to do to get by and to get to keep our children safe and and warm and happy. It was such a difficult time, and me and my husband, we work as a team. We've been together since we were 17. I was 17, he was 19, and we've always worked as a team. So if I didn't have that support network as well, it would have been a heck of a lot more difficult. And my husband just completely and utterly backed me when I said, I'm just going to quit my job. I'm just going to carry on looking after her. But I'm not one to just sit on my hands. So this is why the business then got born with, okay, well, rather than me going to Tesco's and stacking shelves and stuff, could I pick up some clients? And I contacted a few old, jobs or positions that I was in, just a few contacts that I had. And it was within about 2 months, I picked up one of the biggest clients that we've still got to date now. And I thought to myself at that point, oh, we're going to be okay. We're going to be all right. Like that one client will cover my salary now. Anything else on top is, as they say, is gravy. So,
you did. You literally picked up the phone.
Yeah. I think that hustle is real. When your business is brand new, I was giving out business cards like they were confetti. I was literally like, have them,
Work for the NHS? Yeah, here's my payroll card.
have them. I mean, we did simple things like, for instance, we had pens and notepads. Like, think about it, a notepad is on somebody's desk for absolute ages. They tear off that page. Yeah. It's like 50 business cards all in one sheet. So we would take around notepads and pens and I'm just dropping these in. If you need anything, let us know. And the business I picked up from that as well was incredible, And my husband, I'm very lucky. He's a very good salesman for the business. Embarrassingly so, because we're literally in the chip shop the other day and he's like, oh, so who does your payroll? And I'm like, oh my God, cringe. Like, but he's one of my biggest cheerleaders as well,
And he's been a big help for you because very early on in your business journey, you ended up buying another company.
Yeah,
that's a whole story in itself. But can you just give me a bit of a summary? Because, from hustling, and the hustle's real, you were there picking up some clients. You had enough to keep you going, pay yourself a salary, and then this opportunity came about.
Yeah, it was literally through networking. And a liquidator contacted me and asked, are you interested in buying a payroll business? And that was so rare. You don't hear of very many payroll-only businesses. It's mainly accountants who sell up and move on. So I was like, okay, we'll have a conversation, but I haven't got any financing. Just let's see where it goes. We had a conversation with the owners, and they were looking to sell very quickly. 2 of their staff members had left, and they just decided that they couldn't do it anymore. They wanted their clients to stay compliant. So he wanted the business was on a £72,000 annual revenue, and I was like, okay, that's good. It's a lot better than I'm doing at the minute. And he wanted 1.5 times the revenue, and I was like, oh, I haven't got £100,000 sitting in the back of my sofa, so I'm not going to be able to fund this. So we just put in an offer, and it was a matter of me and my husband having a conversation. What can we afford? What can we afford to give up? And we just sold our, we had a beloved VW camper van that we used to go on family holidays with. It's got us through COVID. And we absolutely loved it, but it wasn't suiting ourselves anymore. So we had £15,000 sitting in the bank account that we were going to use to pay off some loans and what have you and consolidate things. And I just turned to my husband and I said to him, could I just use that money as a down payment for this business? Look, let's offer it and see what they say. And he's like, yeah, go for it, whatever. What? Okay, if he asked me for £15,000, I think I'd question it a little bit more. But no, he didn't. Wow. No, he was like absolutely back in it. He was on little calls and stuff as well with the business owners, so he could see the promise in that potential business. And long story short, we ended up securing a deal, and within 2 weeks, we had 85 new clients, all onboarded, and mass majority stayed with us. I did say recently that we had 100%, and we did lose 1 or 2 since, but because they're going for services elsewhere or their businesses have closed themselves, naturally you do, you win and lose clients, and they're continuously moving around. But, and their businesses change. But mass majority of them are still here today. So, and
there's a bit of boldness in asking that, right? Because, with thinking, have I got $100,000 to offer, and negotiate for a business deal? That's a lot of money, isn't it? And you thought, I haven't got $100,000, but I got this. What can I do with it? And you, if you didn't have the boldness to ask, that opportunity would have just slipped past.
That's it. It wasn't just the 15,000. I did have to give, a portion of the revenue for the next 6 months. But that was our negotiation with them, was that, okay, so we know the clients are sticking with us then for that 6 months. You're only going to get half of what they actually stick with. So if your word is gospel and you were telling me that these clients are solid, then you will get your money back, you will get your 50% back. So it was a bit ballsy. They didn't have, they did tell me they had another offer. And I do believe them actually, because they had nothing to lose, they had nothing to lie about, but they liked me that it was just me at the time. So, but they liked the business. They liked how we presented ourselves, and yeah, I'm still thankful to them now. I'm still in contact with the old business owners as well. So
it's a genius move, Kate. Honestly, such a good, such a good move, because that's really set you up now. You are now an award-winning payroll company. You've got a team of people in your office in Cross Hands. It's a very different business from when you started.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, gosh, not long after then we had the acquisition. I thought I'm going to need a premises, just somewhere to go, just somewhere to call home. And I got an office in Cross Hands, like you said. Obviously had to paint the walls pink. Obviously had to make sure that the Dashens could come with me as well.
Yes.
and they work really hard. They come home from a busy day and they sleep all night then,
The dogs are your staff?
The dogs. Staff too, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh, brilliant.
But no, we've got a team of 3 now.
It's incredible. And how many customers do you look after now?
162, I believe it is at the moment, at last count. But we did actually take on another 2 only yesterday. So we work alongside accountants as well, though, see. So we basically run their payroll for them. We white label it for them. We always ask to be open and transparent with them so that they know that it's coming to us. Because if they were to Google our names, for instance, or we were to pick up the phone as the, Augustus Payroll, they're going to know that it's been outsourced. So we ask them for that openness. But we are all a UK-based business and it's outsourced fully in the UK. And like I say, the team is in Cross Hands anyway. We're in the office, but we're hybrid working. So sometimes if you hear a child in the background, that's all right, that's okay. It's just one of the girls just having to do motherhood and payroll.
Fantastic. So you said there about accountants, working with them and partnering with them.
Yeah.
I can imagine they're a good referral partner, obviously. Definitely. But so are you saying that the accountants' customers know that it's coming from you? Because I think that, in my world, I can appreciate, and I do appreciate the transparency. We tend not to use subcontractors in Stori Company, primarily because of speed. Because if you work with freelancers or contractors, you can make a project just extend so much longer. It's quite difficult for working with freelancers if you've got to do things fast-paced. And a lot of the things we do is quite quick. We're quite efficient. So having in-house staff is very important to me. But if we were to use subcontract, I would be quite open in saying that, because I don't... I don't like the fact when companies in my space will go, we have this team of people and have you? No, you've got freelancers. And it just seems a bit disingenuous to me when people... So it's good that you work with the accountants, but the accountants are saying, actually, we'll do that. We'll provide this service, but through our partners.
Feedback from accountants is actually that we can provide them a better service because we're experts in our own field, and their client will get an answer quicker because we're literally at the end of an email, a phone call, within a second. So they'll get that answer back that same day, rather than 2 or 3 days when the accountant has time, or is next looking at their payroll. We're continuously in it. So feedback from accountants for us is always that we're just running their department for them, which is why we ask for the transparency, really. But they have a team of people, and it's costing them probably less than it is to have one employee sitting in that seat in their back office anyway, and they've got 3 professionals running their payroll. So it's normally quicker.
It's normally quicker. That's good to break it down, because maybe from an accountant's point of view, they would maybe understand why partnering with you would be a good idea for them and more attractive. From a business perspective, because I'm in this position where my accountant provides the payroll, why would somebody like me with a small team, why do businesses... Do you think that they need payroll over what an accountant can provide? What is the key difference there?
Yeah, I mean, so accountants can provide the service. I could do bookkeeping. I could do accounts. Doesn't mean I'm good at it. Doesn't mean that I'm an expert at it. Whereas I've got my degree in accounting, payroll. I studied my CIPP degree. Never thought I'd have a degree, but I did. Knuckled down for 3 years and I did it. And so we're experts in our field. We know the legislation. There's 190 pieces of legislation that need to be considered every time you run a payroll. Now, an accountant would still know all of that, but they might not be up and current with exactly what we can do. So, for instance, like we've had clients come to us who have they want to put their wife on their payroll. The wife is expecting a baby. We know ways, if we've had conversations with them beforehand, we know ways in which they can get the best out of their statutory maternity leave. They're not loopholes, they're legal things that you can do to make it so that you can get more out of that maternity for the first 6 weeks. And why wouldn't you want to do that? But we've had people come to us and be like, oh, my accountant didn't tell me about this. But it's maybe because they haven't thought about it. They didn't know it was there. They didn't realise. And this is why you have an expert there, which is why, we work great with accountants, because I don't want to do accounts. I don't want to do bookkeeping. Have it. But give us the payroll. We are, like I say, we're experts. We study the legislation. We're a bit legislation geeks. There's lots of big changes coming in at the moment, and we have to study all of that. We put blog posts out about it. So we need to educate more people. And this is what I'm trying to do, is educate more people that payroll isn't just that pushing of the button at the end, the last day of the month. There's more to it.
So for maternity, I'll give you a call next week.
Yes.
You can help me out.
We've already had the discussion.
Yes, we have in passing.
Yeah.
But no, that's good. Yeah, it's interesting because, it makes me think, challenging my own decisions on, in the business. Do we reframe things? I think for me, it's important that, funnily enough, I was having this conversation with somebody at an event yesterday, because I'm always someone who buys local.
Yeah.
And this gentleman, I never met him before. I was at a networking event, and he was sort of arguing the case that local isn't always the best option, and it's good to get the best person for the job. So we're having this discussion about, I was saying about West Wales tends to be cheaper in most things.
Yeah.
If you go to Cardiff, you can put a bigger price tag on it and all these things. We're having this discussion because for me, buying local, I think is very important. Yeah. And I think what he's trying to get at with me is that sometimes going local is the worst option. It's maybe you're going to get a poorer service in comparison to somebody else outside of the county. So he was saying that we shouldn't just go local for the sake of going local, we should go to the best. Yeah. Which I do believe that. But if they're the best and they're local, that's what I want to try and get at. Because for me, I think just trying to keep things in Wales and in Carmarthenshire here is something I want to try and do. Yeah. And there's some services that we engage in the business. Since some things get outsourced. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm dealing with a Welsh company, but part of the service you outsource, is that strictly in Wales? Well, no, it's not. So for me, that's something I want to try and consider. Because if I'm claiming that all my services that I use in the business are Welsh, I want to live by that statement and back it up. Okay, my Xero and my Google Workspace and all these things that I subscribe to, they're not Welsh, are they? No. But if there are some things within my control, I'd like to keep it Welsh. And if it costs me more money, I think that's worth it. I think it's worth spending more money by keeping it local. That's my personal opinion.
I agree.
But we had a good conversation about this at this event where he was almost saying, well, we should not consider local if then the best is, somewhere else. And I sort of maybe partly agree with that. But I think, if they're a comparable service, it's very subjective, right? Because, you can talk about so many different things. I mean, construction industry, that's like one that often gets a bad rep here in Wales, where often very large procurement opportunities within construction get outsourced to bigger companies. And there are plenty of companies in Wales that do, build fantastic construction projects, But then there's the bigger guys outside of Wales, the multinationals who have swept up some of the construction work in South Wales. Like, well, because they claim the local authorities that have, designated some of these projects will say, well, they're not specialists, are they? We've had to get this. Going on a bit of a tangent here, but yeah, we had this conversation about being local, and I don't know, that's something I'm very passionate about, is keeping things local.
Yeah, no, definitely, which is one of the reasons why I won't offshore my work. So this is something that kind of goes on in the background in payroll, is departments are being offshored, either the Philippines, South Africa, and their payroll is being run by somebody in a different country. Now, I don't feel comfortable with that, for one. Ethically, it doesn't feel right, because you've got employees' data. do they know where their data is? Do they know who's handling their data? You're talking pay slips, P45s, documents that could help them get a loan or a mortgage. And that's being in the hands of somebody who is offshore, who maybe doesn't have the same compliance as we do, you know. And I'm not tarring anybody with any sort of brush, because that could happen in the UK as well. And believe me, it does, you know. But the point is we have got such good talent in the UK. Why aren't we putting our money in the pockets of that talent in the UK rather than sending it abroad? So I've always sworn I will not be offshore in the payroll. And in fact, it was a question that was asked when I was taking over the new clients in the 85 new clients in the acquisition was, are we keeping it in the country? And I was asked that. Yeah, wow. I was contacted and asked that by quite a few of the clients. I would say probably 10% of them, you know, just asking us, are we keeping it in the country? Do they know where their data is? We'll sign up to you if we are keeping it in the country. And I was like, I can assure you it's staying here. So people are conscious that their data is going abroad, or businesses are. I don't know if employees know that it's happening, you know. So this is why I've always said that we're always going to keep the data in the UK. You know, the employees of the business are local employees, you know. We've got a local office with Carmarthenshire County Council, you know. So putting our money back into our environment, you know, rather than sending it somewhere else. So I'm all for shopping local. Yeah. But like you say, I get what he's saying. Quality isn't always like the cheapest. It's not the most expensive option. But yeah, for me, it's let's keep the money in Wales.
Yeah, I think that should be the priority for any business, is keep it local. If you can't keep it local for whatever reason, then okay, make that necessary judgment in, okay, at least try and keep it in Wales, at least try and keep it in the UK. Because especially in this digital space, you know, you can go on Fiverr and just find somebody in another country to do something so cheap. And just for me, on your point, I'll share your point on ethical business decisions. It just doesn't sit right to me one bit. I mean, it's great for people in those countries where, you know, you might well be paying well above the national wage. So it is great, but I don't know, just something doesn't fit right to me. I'd rather, like you, keep in Wales. Most of our listeners are business owners, directors, and, you know, obviously advice comes at a cost. But is there any top tips or something, a golden nugget you can give to maybe business owners? What's one little small thing that, even if they haven't engaged with an accountant yet, haven't engaged with a payroll professional, what is like the simplest thing them in their business, a solopreneur maybe, can think about maybe when it comes to payroll? Maybe there's ways of being more creative, or I don't know. Have you got any advice for business owners on something they can take away for payroll?
It's one of those things. Speak to us, because, you know, we're open for conversations. Whether you're going to convert to us and come over to us, then it's absolutely fine. But speak to us, because there may be some way that we could help you, something you've missed out of. I've had clients who have run payroll for themselves for years, and they've contacted me when there's been a problem. And in that problem, I've noticed, for instance, they didn't claim the employment allowance for 3 consecutive years. That was like £5,000 a year for the first 3 years. And then it was £10,500 this current year. So I literally saved that company, you know, £30,000 within a couple of moments, just by a conversation, because something wasn't right. And my fee for that was probably a couple of £100. And I've given them back like £30,000. If you know, you know. And this is the thing, something always looks easy to us because we know about it, you know. So I take it for granted that, that's an easy fix. When a client contacts us and asks, can you sort this out? Or we got a big problem. Oh yeah, that's an easy fix. It's only an easy fix because we know what we're doing. We've done it for many years, you know, we've done it in many circumstances. Or if we haven't done it ourselves, we've got a network of people who we can ask for support. I belong to a couple of associations, a couple of institutes that I can ask the questions to. So if I don't know the answers, I know where to go for the answers.
And respective accountants, they might not actually know this sort of thing.
No, or they might not be part of them. I know when I've worked in practice previously, or when I've worked in industry as well, as a payroller, I wasn't part of the CIPP, for instance, which is the Chartered Institute of Payroll Professionals. I wasn't part of them when I was in industry. I didn't need to be for my job then, according to my employers at the time. You know, it was an extra £200 a year that they had to pay. That they didn't think was necessary. But what that gave me was a support line, a support network of people that I could ask. Now, accountants, they have that with ACCA, ICAEW, places like that, but they're not specific to payroll. So they might not still be getting the correct information, or they might not be able to get any payroll information from them. I don't know. I've never had to tap into them. But we're there with our speciality, really, that is payroll. And like I say, we don't dabble in anything else. I don't want to do it. So, but it's not to say I couldn't do it, which is what the same aspect is for people when they go to their accountant and get payroll services. I mean, you think as a business, when you first start up, you take on all the work you can, So if somebody says, right, I'm a bookkeeper, but I'm going to take on all of this, and I'm going to take on payroll as well, or I'm HR and I'm going to take payroll as well. And then all of a sudden then these bookkeepers and accountants and people are coming to us and then saying to us, we don't know, we can't run this anymore. We're not making any money from it. We're not making any profit, and it's taking us too much time. And those are the conversations I generally have around, February time after tax season has sort of finished. And I'm having a lot of them right now with people who just want to hand over their payroll to us because they don't want to do it anymore. They took it on as an additional value service previously, and now they're recognising whether it be that things have gone wrong in that time or just the fact that they were so busy in January that they don't need to be doing it anymore, So outsourcing it to us instead.
Quick question. Is it a regulated industry?
So obviously there's lots of legislation around it. Unfortunately, to be a payroller, you could just literally walk off the street and do it.
So I could do it.
So you could do it. This is the thing.
In a technical sense.
But that's what business owners are doing with software nowadays, and saying that, payroll's done, payroll is sorted, then everybody thinks they can do it. But is it right is always the question, So no, it's not regulated. I wish it was. It would make our life a little bit easier. Because
accountancy is regulated, isn't it?
It is regulated,
you have to pass an exam to be able to file somebody's accounts.
But still, I think you can still get away without having to actually be a chartered accountant or anything and file a set of accounts. I could do my own accounts. I'm not an accountant.
Really?
I can file my own accounts. Yeah.
Can you? Is that true?
Yeah,
it's pretty. I thought you needed to be an accountant of a sort to file limited company accounts.
I don't believe you do. No.
That's one for homework.
We'll
find that out. But anyway, the point stands that you're clearly very credible and very professional. So if you need some payroll, advice, go and speak to Kay, because there might be. Are there a lot of rogue people out there who do payroll and just don't have those credentials?
Probably, yeah. I mean, we governed as well by, we've got to have AML checks, which is anti-money laundering checks and stuff. And it's being tightened up, that is now with HMRC. So I'm hoping over the next few years, they'll tighten up the industry a little bit more. But no, I mean, when I used to do payroll, when I first started, I wasn't qualified. I'm qualified now, but I wasn't then. It didn't matter. I could press that button and submit something, which is going to affect other people's livelihoods, other people's benefits in which they're potentially getting as well, pensions and contributions in the future and stuff. But I could still press that button, and I didn't have any qualifications behind me then.
So you're a button presser.
Oh, yeah, that's a bit of a bad topic.
So as we close the conversation, Kay, I'd love to know if you could sit here and whether that's for an hour, have a podcast with somebody else. If you could listen to anyone's story, maybe somebody influential in your industry, even as a mother, I could be a fictional person. We've had Jesus Jesus isn't, I believe Jesus isn't fictional, right? The disclaimer. But if you could sit down and hear anyone's story, whose story would you hear?
Derek Francis Butler. He was OBE, BEM, and he was my grandfather. He was a police detective inspector, and he was also, he was Prince Charles's bodyguard during his investiture as well. And he was my absolute hero. So I spoke earlier on about dyslexia. My grandfather, or Grumper, as I called him, Grumper, he would sit with me and we'd curl up in bed at night, and we'd sit and I would read in books for well into the night, and by reading, it was my version of reading, and he had the patience of an absolute saint. But he also did other things for me as well. So like I said, I had chronic asthma. He bought me a nebulizer, so I didn't have to go into hospital so often then. And you're talking now about 30 years ago, where I think it was about £200 at the time. So that was a couple of £1,000, this medical piece of equipment. The NHS were going to give me the nebules and the medicine to go into it, but not the actual machine. So my grandfather probably saved my life quite a few times if I really look at it, because he stopped me from having to go into hospital so much, which then helped didn't hinder my education. We could control my asthma a little bit better. But by the time I sort of realised that I wanted to know his story a little bit more, he couldn't speak it. He had had a stroke, a leg amputated after he left the police service. He just had a bad bout of health, and he couldn't speak. He had to got to go to speech therapy. And actually, he used to sit next to Ray Gravel during his appointments when because Ray Grav had his leg off as well. He used to sit there in amputee clinics, sitting next to Grav, just like having a conversation with him,
Wow.
So I'd like to properly know his story, because he's got a big one. I mean, my mum tells me a lot, but I'd love to have been able to hear it from my grandfather.
Yeah. Is he still with us?
He's not still with us anymore. No, he actually passed a couple of months before I found out I was expecting our first child, and he would have been the most amazing great grandfather he would have. He'd be definitely one that I'd like. Probably more than an hour I'd lead with him. I think the hour would be crying.
A few episodes.
A couple of episodes, yeah.
That's fantastic. And I don't think we covered it, but as we close, if there are any people listening to this, especially young people, because, a teacher said to you that you wouldn't amount to anything.
I wouldn't amount to much.
You wouldn't amount to much. That was the statement. What advice would you give to somebody who might be in that, part of their life where they've maybe been told by a teacher or a role model? It could even be a parent, right? It's not the teacher's fault. It's not their key. Their key goal as teachers isn't to raise up the next generation. Part of it they might seem, but there's also parent. It's a core thing, isn't it? Yeah. Parents and teachers, all of these people work together to equip young people. But if any young person got told something like that, what advice would you say to them?
So one thing I've really learned is about resilience, and I think young people have to learn the resilience, and they've got it. They've got it in buckets loads, but that would be my advice, really, is just to prove them wrong. That's what I always wanted to do, is like, no, I'm not taking you telling me that I can't do something. I'm stubborn. And my husband says I'm stubborn. My kids say I'm stubborn. And you know what? I actually value that as quite a good, it's good value to have, I feel, because if I know I want to do something and I want to get something out of life, I'm going to be stubborn until I get it. So it's kind of really good. And my son is really stubborn as well. He's exactly like me. So he's 16 now and he can show me some stubborn sides. But, be resilient, if somebody says you can't do something, prove them wrong. There's no greater achievement in life than to walk past them, and just to be like, I did it. You did it. So I don't know, the teacher might be watching this, who knows? I hope.
You hope. But fantastic. Kay, thank you so much for coming on. For those who need advice or they want to reach out, how can they find out more about Augustus Payroll? They can visit our website. There's dashings on it. It's augustuspayroll.co.uk, or they can reach out to myself, which is kay@augustuspayroll.co.uk. Brilliant. Are you on LinkedIn as well? I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm all over LinkedIn all the time. Pink lady on LinkedIn. Yeah, we're all over Instagram and Facebook as well. So my daughter controls the social media. Fantastic. And look at that. What a nice round to that story. Your daughter, who experienced she was in a very dark place a few years ago. Yeah. And she's now working in your business. Yeah. She's the reason for the business, yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic ending to a wonderful conversation. Kay, diolch am dod. Thank you so much for coming on. What's Your Story? Thank you. Diolch yn fawr.